A very good morning to my dear students. Today we are moving on to the poem which is included in the second chapter in your supplementary reader entitled as The Magical Earth, which is written by Gulzar. Gulzar is actually a poet in Hindi. His actual name is Sambhuran Singh Kalra and he is professionally known as Gulzar. And so the poem is also written in Hindi, and most of the poems of Gulzar is translated into English by Pavan K. Verma. So is with this poem also. This poem is translated by Pavan K. Verma from Hindi literature. So the poem is all about nature. So in the title itself we can find that the magical earth, that means something related to earth and nature. So the poem is all about nature. The poet is one who is moved by the relevance of conserving nature. Thus, this poem can be come under the category of a green poem. What do you mean by green poem? Yeah, poems which are advocating the need of conserving nature. The poet is sure about the fact that if we want to conserve ourselves, we have to do what? We have to conserve the nature first. So, nature always captivated him, or nature always inspired him to transform its beauty into art. So is it with this poem too. In that way, we can find the conservation, the need of or the relevance of conserving nature by its inhabitants. So, the poem The Magical Earth expresses his admiration for nature. The innocent question, is this earth magical? As in the second line, and the repeated assertion, the earth knows how to do magic, as in the 3rd, 11th, and 24th lines, underlines the fact that he is in great admiration for nature and in a way admits the magical power of earth. Now, let us have a look at the poem. So, you have to listen to me. I am going to read the poem. The Magical Earth by Gulzar. There is something indeed in the earth of my garden. Is this earth magical? The earth knows how to do magic. If I sow a guava seed, it gives me guvas. If I put in a jamun kernel, it gives me jamuns. A bitter gourd for a bitter gourd, a lemon for a lemon. If I ask for a flower, it gives me pink flowers. Whatever color I give to it, it returns that to me. Has it hidden all these colors in the soil below? I dug a lot but found nothing. The earth knows how to do magic. The earth knows how to do magic. It shows so many tricks. When it balances these long coconut trees on its fingers, it does not even let them fall. The wind does its best, but the earth does not let them fumble. A sherbet or milk or water, anything may fall. It absorbs them all. How much water does it drink? It gulps down whatever you give, be it from a jug or a bucket. Amazingly, its stomach never fills. I have heard that it can even hide a river inside. The earth knows how to do magic. Are there sugar godowns under the earth? or rocks of lime? How does this earth put sweetness into fruits? From where does it get all this? Pomegranates, plums, and mangoes, in all of them sweetness, but different kinds. The leaves tasteless, but the fruits sweet. The musambi sweet, the lemon sour. Undoubtedly, it knows magic. Otherwise, why is the bamboo tasteless and the sugarcane sweet? Now, look at the preface portion. Listen, I am going to read. When we walk into a garden, what strikes us is the abundance of plants and trees. How does the soil we walk on create and sustain plant life? So, in the question itself, we can find a question here. How does the soil we walk on create and sustain plant life? So, in the question itself, we can find a man who is surprised and at the same time doubtful. The man asks himself or to others how this happens. What happens? Yeah, how does the soil we walk on create and sustain plant life? Everything happens automatically. In nature, the soil creates and sustains plant life. So, for example, if you take some soil from somewhere else and put it on a surface, you can see the sprouts of small plants in it. How this happens? Have you ever wondered how this new sprout came to be in the soil apart from the seeds you sowed? This is a magical power of earth. Earth has its own way of nourishment. It nourishes everything in it. Or if we go to a forest, we can find plenty or variety of plants. Does there anybody to plant it or to feed it? No. The earth does not want somebody's assistance to plant or to feed the things on the earth. It has a natural mechanism of its own. That is the magical power of earth, according to the poet, as mentioned in this present poem. And this magical power of the earth is discussed in detail in this poem. Now, let us go for a detailed discussion. I am going to read the first part. Listen. So, before going to get into the poem, you have to understand the meaning of the difficult words used in the poem. So, there is a word used in the poem as dug. Dug is actually the past tense of dig. And what do you mean by dig? Dig means to make a hole. Then again, fumble. What do you mean by fumble? Yeah, fall. Then gulp, to swallow eagerly. Then pomegranate, a fruit bearing shrub. Shrub means a small plant. Then sherbet is actually a food of frozen fruit juice with a dairy product such as a milk added. Yeah, simply we can say that a fruit juice. So these are the meanings of the difficult words used in the poem. So you have to get familiar with these words to get a better understanding of the poem as such. And before going to get into the poem, you have to understand, or you should have at least an idea about these fruits. This is actually the image of guava. So you all know what a guava is. Then we have jamun. So this is actually the image of jamun. Then we have God. This is actually the image of God. Then we have pomegranate. This is actually the image of pomegranate. Then we have plum. Then we have bamboo. and then we have sugarcane. So it is better to keep the image of all these things in your mind for a better understanding of the poem. Okay, now we can move on to the first part of the poem. Now listen. There is something indeed in the earth of my garden. Is this earth magical? The earth knows how to do magic. If I sow a guava seed, it gives me guvas. If I put in a jamun kernel, it gives me jamuns. A bitter gourd for a bitter gourd, a lemon for a lemon. At the very beginning of the poem itself, the poet invites the attention of the readers to the idea which he is going to say through a question. And what is the question? Yeah, is this earth magical? At the very beginning of the poem, he admits that, yeah, there is something miraculous in the earth of my garden. That is why he begins his poem by saying that there is something indeed in the earth of my garden. Then he asks the question, is this earth magical? Then he gives the answer too, that the earth knows how to do magic. In that way, the admiration he felt towards the earth is being confessed in the beginning itself. Now, what about the question? Is this earth magical? What do you think is actually the meaning of this question, or why the poet put such a question in the beginning of his poem? Have you ever felt earth as a magician? Have you ever felt that earth is a magician, or earth as a magician? You may have varying answers. Anyway, let us keep the question in your mind. This question is going to be answered during the course of the poem. Then listen, I am going to read the next lines. If I sow a guava seed, it gives me guvas. If I put in a jamun kernel, it gives me jamuns. A bitter gourd for a bitter gourd, a lemon for a lemon. The poet here onwards starts to speak the miraculous or magical power of earth. Or in other words, he is going to answer the question that is being raised by himself in the beginning. What was the question? Yeah, is this earth magical? Poet says that if he sows a guava seed, it gives him guvas. If he sows a jamun kernel, it gives him jamuns. Similarly, a bitter gourd for a bitter gourd, a lemon for a lemon. The poet wonders how it happens, how the soil identifies that it is a seed of guava, and in return it gives us guvas. The earth will never give us jamun instead of guava, and guava instead of jamuns. If we sow a bitter gourd, it will give only a bitter gourd, not a sugar or not a lemon. How this happens? This is the magical power of earth, according to the poet. This is the something indeed in the earth that the poet referred in the first line of this poem. Now let us move on to the next part. I am going to read the next part. Listen. If I ask for a flower, it gives me pink flowers. Whatever color I give to it, it returns that to me. Has it hidden all these colors in the soil below? I dug a lot but found nothing. The earth knows how to do magic. The poet again wonders at the magical power of earth. He goes on to say that when he asks for a flower, it gives him pink flowers. Whatever color he gives to it, it gives him the same color in return. See, for example, if we plant a red rose stem, we will definitely get a red rose, not a yellow rose or not a white rose. So the poet asks how the earth realizes even the colors. And then he asks, was it hidden in the soil below? Then he says that he dug a lot to find the secret behind this, but found nothing. Then the poet comes to the conclusion, or then the poet comes to the assumption that, yeah, the earth knows how to do the magic. It can even differentiate the color. It is magical. So the earth knows how to do the magic. Because, yeah, even though he dug a lot in order to find the secret behind producing different colors, he could not find anything. So he simply comes to the assumption that, yeah, earth is magical and the earth knows how to do magic. Let us move on to the next part. I'm going to read the next part. So listen. The earth knows how to do magic. It shows so many tricks. When it balances these long coconut trees on its fingers, it does not even let them fall. The wind does its best, but the earth does not let them fumble. Then he tells about the other things seen on the earth. He says that when the wind does its best to make the coconut trees fall, the earth does not allow it to fall. It supports it. That is the another kind of magic he can find on earth. Now let us move on to the next part. I am going to read. Listen. A sherbet or milk or water, anything may fall. It absorbs them all. How much water does it drink? It gulps down whatever you give, be it from a jug or a bucket. Amazingly, its stomach never fills. I have heard that it can even hide a river inside. The earth knows how to do magic. Here, the poet says that earth will be able to absorb or capture anything that falls on its surface. Poet says that a sherbet, milk or water or anything that falls on the earth will be absorbed by the earth. The greatest example is the ratio of rainfall on the earth itself. How much rain does fall on its surface every year? It can swallow them or it can gulp them down. Such is its capacity. At this point, the poet uses a personification. Here, the poet attributes animate quality to inanimate objects like earth. Poet simply personifies earth to that of a man and says that its stomach never fills. How much you pour into it, that will soon disappear, as its stomach will never fill completely. That is why the poet says that it can even hide a river as such. Such is its capacity. And he adds that, yeah, earth knows how to do the magic. Now let us move to the next part. I am going to read the next part. Listen. Are there sugar godowns under the earth or rocks of lime? How does this earth put sweetness into fruits? From where does it get all this? Now, the poet is getting embarrassed and asks the question to himself that how the earth will be able to produce this much sweet into fruits. He is quite doubtful, and his doubt is positive as it fingers out to a positive quality of the earth. He goes on to ask, are there sugar godowns under the earth or rocks of lime? So the poet here assumes that I think that there are sugar godowns under the earth or there are rocks of lime under the earth. If not, if there are no sugar godowns, if there are no rocks of lime under the earth, then you please tell me, from where does it get all this? That means, from where the fruits get the sweetness. So, in that way, again and again, the poet goes on to glorify the magical power of earth through the different things he finds in the nature. Now, let us move on to the last part of the poem. I am going to read the last part. So, please listen. You can also read along with me. So, now please take the last part of the poem. Pomegranates, plums and mangoes, in all of them sweetness, but different kinds. The leaves tasteless, but the fruits sweet. The Mozambi is sweet, the lemon sour. Undoubtedly, it knows magic. Otherwise, why is the bamboo tasteless and the sugarcane sweet? Poet here wonders that if we look at the sweet fruits in the earth, we can find that the proportion of sweet is varying from fruit to fruit. In pomegranates, it is in some quantity, and in plums and mangoes, it is in another quantity and proportion. Then the poet says that the leaves are remaining tasteless, but at the same time the fruits are sweet. Then how earth knows this distinction or this differentiation? The Mozambi is sweet, but the lemon is sour. What magic is this? The poet wonders and admits that undoubtedly we can say that earth knows magic. Otherwise, it will not be able to do this magic because the fruits and the leaves come from the same soil. The Mozambi and lemon come from the same earth. But when it comes to its taste, it becomes different. So, how this happens? So, undoubtedly, we can say that earth knows some magic. In that way, the poet concludes his poem with another question just to focus the idea that earth knows magic. He asks that the bamboo and the sugarcane grow from the same earth. Then how bamboo remains tasteless and sugarcane remains sweet? Without giving answer to this last question, the poet stops his poem. So instead of a mere answer saying that earth knows magic, the poem ends with another question. For the poet clearly knows that this unanswered question in the poem itself will clear the idea or his point of view. So in that way, in short, the poet says that the earth is magical, and to clear his point of view, he gives a long list of fruits and flowers that the earth gives. So this is all about the poem. So in that way, the poet finds different kinds of instances from the earth itself and advocates his point of view that earth is magical and earth knows how to do magic. So this is all about the poem. This is actually the meaning of the poem. Hope you understood everything we discussed today. Anyway, if you feel any kinds of doubt, it will be clarified or it will be cleared in the interactive session. So please go to the poem very well and try to get to familiarize with the meaning of the poem, and after getting into the poem, if you feel any kind of doubts, you can definitely ask me, or you can definitely we can definitely discuss all those doubts in the interactive session. So anyway, I am going to wind up today's class. Anyway, thank you. Have a nice day.